Fantasy Football Warriors. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Warriors podcast. We are your hosts, Eddie Bravo, Tank Sinatra. Today we're going to start off with some pertinent injury news, injury updates, right? And then we're going to get into the last 5 games of the slate. So, Tank Sinatra, injury updates. What we got?
Injury expert over here, right?
Yeah. Giving star Fania Bell a run for her money.
Yeah.
Let's go, man.
For sure. All right. So as of recording this, it is Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. As you get later in the week, the practice reports kind of become important to kind of evaluate how these things are going. So the first one that I think is becoming of note is Devontae Smith has yet to practice this week.
Yep.
And tomorrow's kind of the last day for
him to log a full practice.
Yep. And if he doesn't log a full practice, he's probably not playing. It's not like an exceptional matchup or anything this week. But he's probably someone you've been playing.
I mean, when
he's kind of been bad.
When you think about that matchup, though, right? Eagles-Rams, like that one has potential to be a high-scoring shootout as well, right?
We'll get into it obviously here in a little bit, but the Eagles' defense has been super dominant over since week 5, since their bye. They have been so dominant and they have been so run heavy. Like their pass rate over expectation is way negative. So they are just controlling games with good defense, and Bark's just running out of his mind right now. So I see that as a game that this could happen again.
I can see
it's
that.
Kind of hard to really buy into the tertiary options, which at this point, Devontae Smith is a tertiary option. He's kind of boom or bust. You either get your 80 yards and a touchdown, or you get your 3 receptions for 40 yards, and you're like, well, that's 7 points. It's kind of brutal, right? So Devontae Smith hasn't been like a mainstay in your lineup, or at least I hope not. But it is still worth noting that he's not practicing. Obviously, if he doesn't play, that gives a bump to Dallas Goedert. That gives a bump to A.J. Brown. Absolutely. It is a positive matchup in the passing game. I'm not saying it's a bad matchup for Devontae Smith, but it's just worry about the game script a little bit, and he hasn't been a super featured part of the passing attack,
factor,
right? So that's that. Devontae Smith has yet to practice. We'll see what goes on. Tomorrow will be the big day to watch.
For sure, especially with 6 teams on bye. Maybe you were hoping to have Devontae Smith in your lineup. If you were, this is definitely something to monitor.
Moving on, Kyle Shanahan on Brock Purdy, who logged a limited practice this week. Hopefully, he'll be feeling great on Sunday. That is what he was quoted as saying.
That is not good coach speak.
Definitely not something you want to hear. It kind of doesn't have good vibes.
No,
Hopefully he'll be feeling great on Sunday.
Instill confidence.
Yikes, right? So we'll see with Brock Purdy. He's still got another day. He's at least been limited practicing. But if he doesn't log a full one tomorrow,
Tommy DeVito.
Yeah. Tommy DeVito.
Yeah.
That to do Brock Purdy.
I know. If you can't play Brock Purdy.
Oh, yeah. I got lost.
Pivot. There. Tommy DeVito.
Yeah. Just something to monitor there. I can't say whether he's gonna miss or not, but it's not looking promising from that perspective. You obviously want him to play for guys like George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, and he's been a fine option if you've been playing him. So something to monitor with Brock Purdy as the week comes to a close here. Isaiah Pacheco has not been officially designated to return from IR just yet.
Rats.
We'll see if it happens. Obviously, they've got Friday, Saturday to do it before he's not playing. But right now, it's trending like we might have another Kareem Hunt week. And as we talked about Tuesday, it is a premier matchup against the Panthers. So whether it's Pacheco or Hunt, put him out there.
Fire him
and
up.
At this point, if he is active but doesn't log a full practice tomorrow, I will be a little bit hesitant to start Isaiah Pacheco, I think, just because
for sure.
I'm not sure they're going to just throw him back in.
Right.
Something to monitor there. Obviously, with 6 teams on bye, you might need to play him either way, but just understand there is a possibility in here where he doesn't play all the snaps, a ton of snaps, and it's still kind of split there with Kareem Hunt. I don't know how long that lasts. I'm not saying that's going to be the way it is the rest of the season, but there is some things to monitor here as we head into this Panthers matchup, especially because it's not a game where they feel like they need Pacheco. I mean, this should be an easy game to
the last
move on
thing
to
they
10-1.
want to do is roll him out there, have him re-aggravate. They're not going to do that.
Yeah. Next up, Mike Evans officially upgraded to a full practice
Let's go.
today.
There he goes.
So
If you got Mike Evans, fire him up.
he should be good to go for this prime matchup against the Giants here. Just wanted to note that he's been officially designated to return from IR, upgraded to a full practice today. So we should be going good there. That is all the kind of important injury updates that I felt were necessary to speak on.
Cool.
That'll be that. We'll be right back with the matchups.
Momentary pause. All right, Fantasy Football Warriors, we're back. Here we go. Kicking it off. Broncos, Raiders, right? Fire up Bo Nix.
Bo Nix is playing great. He's got the argument for rookie player of the year, to be honest with you.
Bo Nix, man. Who would have... I'm still like, who'd have thought, man? Who'd have thought Bo Nix, right?
He wasn't even projected to go in the first round. Like, that's pretty crazy. We didn't get around to evaluating much of Bo Nix, so... Maybe there was something there that we missed by not evaluating.
By not watching the film, yeah. The dual threat ability, what can you say, right? Dual threat ability, has thrown multiple touchdowns in 5 of his last 7 games. I mean,
do you want to fire the cannon for Bo Nix?
You know what? Let's fire the cannon for Bo Nix. Oh, bajoom! Let's go, Bo Nix. Good for you, buddy. Yeah, definitely start him, right? 6 teams on bye. You can do way
He's
worse
probably
than
an
Bo
every
Nix.
week starter at this point. I actually
Yeah, he might be.
In one of my leagues, I have Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, and I've been strongly considering as the trade deadline.
Wow, that's
coming up here, trading Jaden Daniels, because obviously Jaden Daniels has a really, really high stock right now, and I'm not telling you to trade away Jaden Daniels. I'm not doing it in every league, but I have Bo Nix, I have Jaden Daniels. If I wanted to round out other spots in my roster and just roll with Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels could fetch me a nice price where I could get some other things to round out the roster there as we head into playoffs. Just something I'm considering. Bo Nix, like I said, is probably in weekly start territory. He's doing it on the ground, doing it with his legs.
What a bold maneuver.
That's
a BD move. That's a BD move. If you know, you know.
You know.
Man,
what can I say?
That's quite the gotta dig deep into your soul to like really. I would have never thought about that. I'll tell you that right now. Trading away Jaden Daniels and keeping Bo Nix to fetch a price somewhere else. That's... I don't know if I would have had the testicular heft to do that.
I just, what can I say? So I will keep everyone updated on that. I think I might try to get that trade through
interesting.
This weekend, and once we come back after the weekend.
Yeah, but definitely Bo Nix in play here.
Without a doubt. Raiders have given up a lot through the air. It's they've been pretty brutal defensively, especially kind of the strong finish we saw to them last season. They've complete role reversal. It's a positive matchup all around, really. On the other side of things, Broncos have been very, very, very good defensively. They're bottom 8 in both pass and rush EPA allowed. It's much, much more brutal on the Raiders side of things.
Oh, yeah.
Raiders have given up at least 1 touchdown to a running back in 6 straight weeks. There's kind of a gross committee going on with Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin.
Sean Payton hates your fantasy team.
He does. With that being said, Javonte...
I mean, you got to go with what you know, right?
He's kind of the lead back.
Javonte.
He's getting the receiving work. He's getting the most carries. And chances have it, he scores a touchdown in this game. So I think given that, it's enough to warrant Javonte as kind of a high-end flex play for you. It's a good matchup. He could get some room. He's the one that's getting the most touches. Just understand that there's just going to be risk in this backfield because it's so split. In a 3-way, not even just between 2 people. Broncos have been by far the most susceptible to tight ends in the slot, even though they've been brutal through the air. Where you're going to find production is the tight ends in the slot. Luckily, the only person on the Raiders we even wanted to start was their tight end, Mr. Brock Bowers. So, Brock Bowers continues to be a must-start here.
Oh, yeah, you're not sitting Brock.
In case you were wondering who the slot receiver is for the Raiders, it's DJ Turner. I wouldn't go there. The matchups looks fine. He might be the most productive wide receiver on the team, but I don't know if that's enough to warrant a start.
Yeah.
He has no games this season, out of the slot that would make me think, okay, there is potential and a good matchup for him to go out and play well. There's not enough there. It is a good matchup for him, but I just wouldn't go there. There's no reason to do it. Just Brock Bowers is the only Raider I would even think about starting this week. It's brutal everywhere else. It's an even grosser committee
right
with the
Madison, White,
Raiders.
Abdullah, Laub.
It's brutal.
And
I'm
Madison
take a
and
victory
White
lap
are
just
dealing with injuries.
Just like you get to take a victory lap with Brock Bowers, I get to take a victory lap on Zamir White. People had this guy crowned as this workhorse running back. I was just, nah.
Yep. You were not buying it.
Nah.
You were not buying what they were selling.
It was absolutely, I think, probably my strongest take of the offseason was just Zamir White as a no-go.
Zamir White, nah.
All
I don't believe it.
Just no.
Yeah,
I'm not drafting him at all in this range. It's just not happening, and I didn't.
Stay away from the Raiders' backfield. It's not.
I hope you've been staying away from it because there's been no production to come out of it. With that being said, Bo Nix, as we mentioned, strong to must start rest of the way here. Cortland Sutton, kind of in a must start territory in a really good matchup. He's been the primary benefactor of the Bo Nix breakout. That'll do it for Broncos Raiders. Moving on to 49ers at Packers.
Boom.
Both
49ers, Packers.
Both stronger defenses here. Kind of could be a lower ceiling game, to be honest with you.
It's possible. But you got to start with the hot boy, Juwan Jennings.
The hot boy.
That's hot boy over there,
We can say that.
The hot boy, man.
Pause. Negative to neutral. EPA per pass and per rush. I just want to throw that in there for both the 49ers and Packers. Niners are one of the premier slot funnels in the league. You wanted to start with Juwan Jennings, so we'll get to that.
Yep.
Right here. Jennings is probably a must-start all the way at this point. Just last week, 35.7% target share, 57.2% of the team's total yardage. He's been exceptional.
41% first read rate.
Yep, just exceptional. And any game that I
leading in targets, catches, receiving yards, you can't not start Juwan Jennings at this point.
So he's a must start. He's looking like a league winner here down the stretch in this offense.
Now, if Purdy doesn't play...
Yep, as we mentioned, Brock Purdy is kind of walking into... kind of wondering about his health here, so it's something to pay attention to. You would certainly have to downgrade Juwan Jennings.
That's definitely going to affect Jennings if Purdy doesn't play.
With that being said, as we said, the Packers are a tough matchup through the air too, so I already have, even if Brock Purdy plays, I think he's a lower-end play. You've been starting him every week because he's been playing pretty well, but I think this is a game where you want to perhaps shy away. I think the ceiling will be capped a little bit, especially if he's not healthy. Things to think about here. He downgrades this week. It's a tougher matchup. And I
agree.
Hasn't been much QB production over the last month or so from any Packers matchup. So avoid the Brock Purdy show, but Juwan Jennings, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle are must-starts every single week regardless of matchup, I think, the rest of the way here.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I was saying, Niners are one of the premier slot funnels in the league. Jaden Reed is the Packers' primary slot receiver with a 79.6% of his routes coming from the slot this season. He should be set up this week to have a boom week. He's been all over the place a little bit. Before their bye, he hit over 100 yards. Then they went on bye. Last week, he just had the touchdown. Wasn't much to look at. This should be a week where we're firing up Jaden Reed with confidence.
It'll get right with Jaden Reed.
Yeah, this should be the week for him to produce in this wide receiver by committee that goes on the Packers, right? This is his week. At least it should be. So fire up Jaden Reed as a strong start. Josh Jacobs is getting enough volume to warrant strong start every single week. Jordan Love, I actually have a strong start. It's a tough matchup for him as well. However, I think this is a game. Jordan Love's performed well in trailing. Those are the games where he's throwing a ton, getting the touchdowns and the yardage. So this kind of profiles, in my opinion, as a game that, you know what? Jordan Love is probably in a good position. I'm
definitely not shying away from Jordan Love here. Who I am shying away from is
Tucker Kraft. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Just negative tight end matchup all the way.
Yep.
Just
it's been bad.
No tight ends have been faring very well.
No catches on one target.
Oh, well, I'm
against
not
the
even talking.
Bears.
Yeah, Kraft
I mean,
wasn't great. I'm talking about the matchup here too,
I mean, yeah, the matchup's not, but even
where he's been.
just he was getting by early on big plays and touchdowns, and once those kind of teetered off, you were kind of left with
Absolutely, and if you were paying attention, you could see it coming because his per route metrics, his target share, none of that was particularly good. He was just yards after the catch. It was just a yards after the catch monster. And some of those things can't be sustainable, especially when you're not like an amazing athlete. Not that he's not an amazing athlete, but we're, talking Jamar Chases of the world as the athletes that, they're going to run up some yak pretty consistently. But so the Tucker Kraft thing was fun, but he's just going to be boom or bust either way. He's not someone who was earning a high target share anyway.
Yeah.
And in a matchup like this, it's just an absolute void.
Stay away.
This is easily one of the worst, if not the worst, tight end
allowing
matchup
the
you can
fourth
find.
fewest yards to the tight ends this season.
There you go.
Second fewest since week 7, the Niners. So
I believe it.
Don't do it.
Negative tight end matchup. Absolutely. Moving on. That was 49ers at Packers. Cardinals and Seahawks is up next here. Battle of the Birds going down in Seattle. Cardinals and Seahawks are both top 10 in EPA per pass allowed. However, Cardinals over the last month or so have really, really picked it up. They've been strong. Cardinals have allowed one singular quarterback touchdown over the last month. One.
Since week 7 to 10, allowing the third fewest fantasy points per game to QBs. And like you said, only one passing touchdown. That defense has really picked it up in the past month.
Absolutely. Because of that, Geno Smith
is going to save the day. Comeback player of the year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
I think you sit him. There's not anything here for me that I'm like, Geno Smith's going to be fine. I mean, he's been okay, but it's not like he's Lamar Jackson out there where you just think he's matchup proof. This is, just the one of the worst quarterback matchups in the league right now.
Can the 64% or I think it's like 64% pass rate of the Seahawks, right? That kind of more towards the pass happy end offense.
Help facilitate a good game. It's possible.
Help them out.
It's definitely possible, and you bring up a good point there. And if this game pops off, maybe the Seahawks find a groove. It's got the makeup, as we mentioned, over the course of the season. They're both top 10 in EPA per pass. So it's got the makeup that it could pop off, but the Cardinals, as of recently, like we said, the last month have been very, very brutal. Mm-hmm. And you kind of have to weigh that in because over the course of a season,
follow the trends, right?
Defenses go through changes, post-bye. You can see a lot of different things. As we talked about with the Eagles, the first 4 weeks of the season, the Eagles were looking brutal on defense. And then they had their bye week, week 5, and came back week 6, and since have been one of the best defenses in the league, top 3 defense in the league, truly. And so you kind of have to weigh that in.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals, over the last month, have looked like they're turning that corner.
Yeah.
So it's something to weigh in here when you're evaluating your wide receivers. Geno Smith here. Like I said, I think that there's probably better options, I hope, than Geno Smith for you. It's a risky matchup. As far as JSN and Metcalf go, they've been playing super, super well. They're the focal points of this offense. I think this warrants a strong start still. But all of the wide receiver production that you're going to see when you're evaluating the Cardinals is from the beginning of the season to a month out. There's been nothing, absolutely nothing. It's been a wasteland for wide receiver production, no matter whether you've been a slot receiver, an outside receiver, a tight end, wasteland for receiving production over the last month. So you might think that, it's a good slot matchup because early in the season it was.
Yeah.
Over the last month, it's just no receiver has
not the same.
Done as well, right? Like I said, JSN Metcalf have been playing super well. They've been the focal point. It's enough for you to warrant a strong start, but understand it's a very risky matchup and they could go out there and bust very, very easily. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to recommend for me, just when you take into account how well they've been playing as of recently.
Yeah.
On the other hand, wide receivers have been balling against the Seahawks. So fire up Marvin Harrison. I think is a must start.
Jr.
He was already starting to get cooking over the course of the season. I think I mentioned Marvin Harrison has obviously underwhelmed as a rookie, but it's not been because of talent. It hasn't been because of him. The Cardinals early in the season were just, picking my words here,
not utilizing him the best?
No, not at all. Especially for a rookie coming into the NFL for the first season. They had him playing the hardest wide receiver role you could. They literally was just leaving him out on an island on the outside and just saying, all right, rookie, go run a go route every route and we'll see what happens. It's like no wide receiver is going to be productive under that. Not in today's NFL. And like he was running go routes at the same rate as Marquez Valdez-Scantling does. If there's anything we know about MVS is that's his specialty. He just runs routes down the field, and it's why he's not productive in fantasy, because those have the lowest success rate in the NFL.
I mean, we just saw when Calvin Ridley was with the Jaguars, using Calvin Ridley in that way.
Same role. It was so inconsistent.
And we're talking about Calvin Ridley now, right? So
not that it's been much better for the Titans because the QB play has been so brutal. But
yeah, I'm just talking about that time. Yeah. That time.
Over the last couple of weeks here before the bye, Marvin Harrison was running better routes. When you look at his route charts, he was being moved around the field, having some slot routes, right side, left side, not strictly go routes. He was having horizontally breaking routes. Horizontally breaking routes versus vertically breaking routes. There is a significant difference in fantasy points. Horizontally breaking routes, I think, man, I saw the stats so long ago, but there's a significant difference in the fantasy points per route between vertical and horizontal breaking routes. So that was significant development over a few weeks ago. Now they just got their bye week, and now we're heading into a new week. You see rookies tend to take a better step up. More installed into the offense, and we were already seeing him trending in the right direction.
Yeah,
Marvin Harrison has the makeup here to really, really start hitting his stride here late in the season. He was definitely a player to be maybe trading for earlier in the season and holding if you had him, because he's got a great rest of the season schedule here because of the teams that he's got coming up. Most of them play a lot of cover 3, single high. Wide receiver ones get a bump against that. There was a lot of things pointing towards a later season breakout for Marvin Harrison, and I think we were seeing it a couple weeks ago. I think it continues this week. As I said, wide receivers have been balling. That was my little rant on Marvin Harrison Jr. The time should be now. I think he's a must start this week. Let's hope it continues and they don't just revert back his role. But
yeah, no, fire him up, man. This defense is giving up 9th most to the perimeter. So 5th most if you go from week 8 to now.
Yep.
Fire up Marvin
it's there.
Harrison. It's there. It's there for the taking.
Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, James Conner also must starts. One thing to pay attention to off the bye week here, I mentioned a couple weeks ago, is the James Conner, the Trey Benson
thing,
split that was starting to emerge. Do we see that worsen? Do we see it stay the same? But I think until further notice, James Conner's been playing super, super well. I don't think it's been mad at this running attack specifically. Has been rolling between him, DeMercado, Benson. They've all been getting theirs and playing very well. So the running attack's been going. James Conner is still fine until further notice. Must start this week as well.
Absolutely.
Moving on. Eagles at Rams. As I mentioned a moment ago, Eagles have been playing lights out defensively since week 4. They are bottom 3 in EPA per pass allowed, bottom 6 in EPA per rush allowed. Just truly a top 3 defense in the league right now. No wide receiver, let me repeat, not a single one, has had over 54 receiving yards against the Philadelphia Eagles since week 4.
Yeesh.
That is 2 months of NFL action against good players. We're talking Jamar Chase was held to 54 receiving yards. If you didn't know, over the last month, he's had a 190-yard game, a 264-yard game. Philadelphia Eagles, 54 receiving yards. It has been brutal. Now, Sean McVay is probably the best offensive coordinator in the league from a scheming perspective. I don't think anyone... The only guys you're going to start thinking that you could even throw at Sean McVay are like Andy Reid.
Right.
And outside of that, maybe Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson still doesn't have the experience to really say it. Sean McVay is a premier, I don't even want to say just coordinator, caller of games.
Mm-hmm. That guy's a snake charmer.
He's great.
That guy's the dude with the flute and the cobra.
That's him.
That's him.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, McVay does a great job of scheming his offense. He does a great job of scheming his guys open.
And that's why that's That's the one thing, right, that I would say, you know what?
Just fire up Puka and Cup anyway.
Fire him up. Fire up Stafford too. Like, I, 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 I don't. I think they're all good enough to not necessarily have to shy away. But we'll see, right?
We'll see. Like I said, it's hard not to trust 2 months of matchups, 2 months of other great players, other good offenses, right? Just struggling. It's hard to trust it. And the official recommendation for me is to avoid Stafford and downgrade Cup and Puka. I'm not saying you need to sit them. They've obviously... There are the centralized... The entire passing attack is centralized around those two people, right? So the target shares, I mean, they combined for 70% of the targets last week.
Easy.
They are the passing attack. So it's going to remain that way, absolutely. So maybe you get there off of targets where it's a fine day. I could see that happening. Or maybe they each have 10 targets for 6 receptions and 50 yards, and you just feel good about the 11 points. But I wouldn't expect the... over 100 yards, touchdown, or 2 touchdowns you got last week. That's just not in the realm of range of outcomes this week, I don't think. It's, like I said, it's a brutal, brutal matchup here. It's hard to recommend, even with understanding that Sean McVay, the offense he runs, is way better tailored towards offensive success for these wide receivers and the quarterback. But I think it's enough to downgrade significantly to these players just to recognize Cup and Puka. You got to downgrade him significantly, and Stafford you probably don't want to avoid this week. For Kyren, huge downgrade for him as well. As I mentioned, they've been great against the run. Only one running back has averaged over 4 yards per carry with at least 5 carries since that.
And that's hard. If you got Kyren Williams,
it's hard, but he's been bad this season. Like, I'm just gonna call it out. He's been bad early in the season,
especially where you drafted him. Like, it's like you kind of have to play him, right?
Yeah, and I'm not saying to sit him. He's got one of the best roles, but he has been underperforming in that role to such a significant degree. He's been brutal, and now he steps into a matchup where running backs in general have been brutal. I mean, over that same stretch, there's been only 2 instances of a running back having over 9 receiving yards. So he doesn't even have... He's probably not going to have a receiving role to back up on.
Right.
So it looks like another... Okay, maybe he has 25 carries, but it might be for 50 yards and a reception or 2 for 9 yards, and you're like, wow, that is 8 points. That's 7 points. That's just not going to cut it, right?
Yeah.
So huge downgrade for a player that's already been underperforming massively. He's been completely touchdown dependent. So huge downgrade for him. You're going to need those touchdowns for sure. It's just not going to happen in the running or receiving game without a broken play or something. There's nothing projectable here for Kyren Williams. If you can sit him, I would prefer to sit him. I know you probably drafted him in the probably second round. That's
tough, man.
Hard to sit him,
tough sledding right there.
I don't know how I can find a way to probably
say start him.
Yeah. It's brutal. He's been brutal. I would sit if I can. On the other side of things, Rams are pretty positive through the air. They're actually pretty tough on the ground, but it's Saquon Barkley. He's been absolutely balling.
And
do you want to fire the cannon for Saquon Barkley?
Fire the cannon for Saquon Bursley.
We are some of the minority Giants fans that have no hard feelings for Saquon Barkley. We have been strong lovers of Saquon, obviously, but strong lovers of Saquon his entire career. That's our guy. And we were both...
In the offseason, my hope...
Ball out,
yeah. My off-season hope, I remember talking about it, was that I hope he comes into this season and sets the NFL on fire, and
it's happened.
Gosh darn it, he's doing it.
And you just love to see it. He's been nothing but a class act in the NFL on one of the most brutal organizations in the NFL. There's no hate in my heart for Saquon.
Nope.
He's probably still my favorite player in the league, even though he's an Eagle.
Even as an Eagle. Yep.
You love to see it. We were two people that knew how great he was And there was a lot of people
where people were like, oh,
he's
an
overrated. He's not that good.
Blah blah blah. He's injury prone. Blah blah blah.
And it was just like
it was all the
ultimate litmus test of ball knowing, right?
Casual football fans don't know squat.
He's just so obviously so great, and we knew he was so great, and it was something that I think weighed on us both a little bit to think, damn, he's wasting his career with the Giants.
Yeah,
he's never gonna get to go out there.
He's never gonna get out there and like really show what
he
can
is
do
and what he can do, right?
What he is. Yep. Yeah.
But he's having the opportunity of the lifetime with the Eagles. Must start, obviously. And A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, must starts every single week. They land a pretty good matchup. Devontae Smith, as I mentioned, has been more of a boom-bust option as he's not been heavily integrated into this offense, unfortunately. So he warrants a strong start if he's healthy. Obviously, he's not trending in the right direction to even play this week. And Dallas Goedert, strong start as well.
Oh, yeah.
He's just a good, reliable option at the tight end position to get you 10 to 12 points. And that is Eagles at Rams.
Boom.
Final matchup of the week, Monday night, Ravens at Chargers. This should be a fun game.
I'm looking forward to this game. I'm definitely looking forward to this game. I think, I love what I'm seeing out of Herbert right now.
Yeah.
You know, Justin Herberto.
We've loved Justin Herbert since he came into the league.
Since watching him in college over there with Oregon. Yeah. Definitely love that. He's back. He's playing like we know he can play.
Yeah, and something else that's developed over this season that has been really, really good. You know, in the past, he's been way more of a traditional pocket passer. He doesn't leave the pocket if he doesn't have to. He doesn't take off and run if he doesn't have to.
However,
the last few weeks and this season, as it's gone on, he has become someone who is not afraid to run. He's looking to run. He's actually gaining that extra yardage, and from a fantasy perspective, obviously the rushing upside is huge, but also from an NFL perspective, he is one of the most deadliest passers of the football in the league from a, whatever perspective you want to look at. Arm talent, accuracy, processing, like one of the most deadliest passers of the football, obviously. But now he's adding that element to his legs where it's like, damn, maybe we need a spy on this guy now. Mm-hmm. We can't even drop into all coverage.
30 yards in 3 of his last 4.
Yep.
So
he's making plays. He's getting first downs. He's going out there and taking off running. Like it's
season
been such a great
high 65 last week.
Yep. It's been great from fantasy, from a real life football perspective. Love it for Justin Herbert to be in an actual functional organization. Jim Harbaugh loves him. Love to see
now
it.
To get this matchup, I want to see him go. I want to see him go off.
Oh yeah, Ravens are the top pass funnel in the league, especially the tight ends and outside wide receivers. Ravens are brutal against the run. Both of these teams are bottom 3 rushing matchups, but the Chargers are also a bottom 4 passing matchup in terms of EPA per pass allowed. So the Chargers have been very, very good defensively as well. However, the side note on that is the last couple of weeks, Chargers have been kind of getting into shootouts, especially in terms of production allowed to outside wide receivers. Obviously, last week, you had that great Bengals-Chargers game where Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both had over 100 yards, I think multiple touchdowns. So the production has been kind of coming for the Chargers and from outside wide receivers. So Rashad Bateman, I think, warrants a sneaky strong start. I don't think you get a Zay Flowers game here. The slot production still hasn't been there, and obviously he runs most of his routes from the slot.
Yep.
Zay Flowers is really good at football, and he's always one of those players that could break out a long reception off of yards after catch.
Yep.
So it still warrants maybe flex value there for Zay Flowers, but I think Rashad Bateman's the one that should have the stronger performance in this week. Tight ends are still kind of a toss-up. A couple weeks it was like, oh, Mark Andrews is trending up, but then it was Isaiah Likely, and that's I don't know. I prefer not to roster them all and move on. The tight end I would like to roster and play this week is Will Dissly.
Dissly.
As I said, top pass funnel in the league. Tight ends have been producing all season long. Will Dissly's been getting it. We mentioned him in the waiver wire section of this week.
Yep.
Strong start there. Justin Herbert is a must start. As I said, outside wide receivers, the primary outside wide receivers for the Chargers. Quentin Johnston, Justin Palmer. Either one of them could go out and have big days. Both of them go out there and have big days. They've had their moments this season. Quentin Johnston's been kind of the more consistent one that's finding the yardage, the big plays, the touchdowns. So This is the first week I think I'm going to seriously recommend Quentin Johnson. As a strong play here. He's
every time we say his name, I always think of it's so funny the turnaround, because at the beginning of the season we were like there was something we said and we were like, Quentin Johnston, that's the answer. Like, obviously, poking fun, but how things have changed from the beginning of the season to now, right? It's just
he's
funny.
Still, and I don't mean to pull out the negative and something positive. He's still not that great. There are still things that he struggles with.
I'm just saying,
but he's improved. He's improved
from the beginning of the season to now, right?
Over the course of the season since last season, he's improved significantly, and he is a much better part of this offense.
Yeah, for sure.
And in a week like this, top pass funnel in the league. Outside wide receivers have been balling. I think Quentin Johnston finds his way to a productive game here. Ladd McConkey is obviously
little Ladd McConkey
been the primary pass catcher here, but he plays primarily from the slot, and the slot production hasn't been the stuff that you're holding golden here in this Ravens matchup. But as a whole, the whole Ravens secondary has been bad, and it's been, like I said, the whole secondary. It's everywhere. People are just throwing on him. So Ladd McConkey, who leads the team in target share, could still find him a good day, but it's the outside wide receivers here that are more set up for them, the high ceiling, right? So Ladd McConkey still warrants a strong start just because of the target share. He's been kind of breaking out over the last several weeks here. I think you can do fine, but Quentin Johnson, Josh Palmer are the ones that really are the high ceiling plays.
Yeah.
Lamar, Henry, both get really, really tough matches against the Chargers. Lamar should be fine because we just saw Joe Burrow
I'm not shying away from Lamar Jackson. Henry might have a tough day.
Derrick Henry could have a tough day really, really quickly, but he's a must-start regardless.
Yeah, you're not sitting
playing super well. He's in a great offense, and the touchdowns could be here. This game could shoot out like we saw last week, and Derrick Henry go out there have 2-3 touchdowns this week. That's just always in the range of outcomes here.
For him,
so this could be a very fun game. Like I said, Will Dissly, Quentin Johnston are the receivers that I would be more targeting in this game for Justin Herbert to find the biggest production from, but I'm fine with getting any of them in your lineup if you have to, especially with 6 teams on bye. And Rashad Bateman, the other outside wide receiver that I would be trying to get into your lineup.
Yeah, I think Dissly probably my favorite here. 22% first read rate. That's 8th amongst tight ends at the moment. I mean, Ravens are giving up the 2nd most yards and 9th most fantasy points per game to the tight end. That's probably my favorite. If I had shares of the Chargers, if I had Dissly in my lineup,
or on the wire, I've seen him on the wire in tons of places.
Yeah, I would feel
so I
very
mentioned
good.
him on the waiver wire.
Yeah, I would feel very good about grabbing him and plugging him in for sure.
Definitely Herbert and Dissly. Those 2 players are just like, yes, you want to get them in your lineups. They're both set up super well. That is the final matchup of the week. That is the Monday night game. We have gone through all the matchups. Beautiful.
There it is. All right. So, now that we've done all that, for the Tank Sinatra, this is Eddie Bravo. We are signing out. Join the militia! Ah!